And it's quite a strange story and quite a, there's some strange coincidences involved. Because as a young child, I used to stay in Crystal Palace to my grandparents' house, backing onto Crystal Palace Park. This was in the middle 1960s, at a time when Dick was manager of Crystal Palace. And my elder brother and I, as kids do, burrowed under the fence at the back of the garden into the National Sports Centre at Crystal Palace to watch Dick training his Crystal Palace squad, which was quite an innovative thing to do in those days. Dick made an impression on us even then. This tall, upright, slightly military figure who commanded such respect from the players. Fast forward a few years to 4th November 1968, Colchester versus Workingtons. 5 of us within a family group went to watch the U's at Layer Road. 7,000 crowd, fantastic game, and there was Dick again, commanding operations in that that gladiatorial style. So that was the first rediscovery of Dick. From that November night, I've been hooked on the U's and watched them regularly ever since. Dick's days were perhaps the most memorable era of the whole period, because there was a certain magic about the team which Dick put together. And when I say team, he actually put together one team, moved it on, built a second team, which was the Leeds team, and there was in the throes of building his third team, which was based on kids, when he finally decided to pack it in 1972. But that 4-year period was just such an incredibly remarkable time. Dick's left Colchester. I'd started work for an insurance broker in Ipswich called Willis Faber. We had a newly built sports club, and one Monday morning, lo and behold, who's walking across the office floor but Dick Graham? And I thought I was hallucinating, but there he was, larger than life. Dick was running the sports club. He had an office in the Ipswich Town Centre building, and he ran the sports club, which was at Rushmere on the outskirts of Ipswich. But trust me, every minute I could skive off work to go and sit round where Dick sat, and to sit at his desk and talk to him about football. Every one of those moments was taken, and many hours unaccounted for at that time, and we developed quite a nice little friendship. A short while after, interestingly, Dick recruited Brian Wood. He'd also followed Dick round through all his clubs. Brian had started at West Brom, gone to Palace with Dick, gone to Orient with Dick, followed him to Colchester and been his club captain. Dick had recruited Brian for Willis Faber, so not only did I have this wonderful opportunity to spend time with Dick talking about football, but find myself playing in central defence with Brian. Brian took over the running of Willis Sports Club from Dick, and I guess Dick went into retirement at that time, and our paths didn't cross for a few more years until a time when I was researching a book. I re-established contact with Dick, went round his house, and it was, the old cliche, the years just melted away, and I spent many hours listening to Dick. I was going to say talking to Dick, but with Dick, the most profitable time was spent listening to him. Such was the wealth of tales and anecdotes and fantastic stories that were in his head. Dick quite liked sharing the good experiences, so completely full of Dick's recollections of his childhood, his first village football team, his first manager for the village football team, his first game he played, and so it goes on and so it goes on. His brother's career, Dick's time at Northampton, which people aren't really aware of, his wartime RAF experience, his wartime football. Blackpool shipped in or arranged for a lot of good footballers to be posted to the area, and Dick found himself playing wartime football games with Stanley Matthews, later Sir Stanley Matthews, the greatest footballer in the world at that time. Dick spent a lot of his spare time when he was at Blackpool. The RAF didn't find work for him to do on the end of Blackpool Pier, where Stanley Matthews had a sports shop and used to have a fishing rod stuck over the side of the pier, and that's where Dick would spend his spare hours when he wasn't on the training ground with Stan, practicing his crossing, and obviously Dick practicing his taking the football. Wartime came to an end. Dick moved on. Crystal Palace was the most accessible club by train in London from Brize Norton. Dick made his way to Palace, thence successful career as manager and as player and manager at Crystal Palace, thence on to Colchester. So last few years I've seen Dick at his home on an occasional basis, and also, and this pleases me greatly, he accepted an invitation to come to a number of games at Western Homes Community Stadium. Not easy for him, very poor on his legs, on crutches, struggling on crutches, The most impressive thing was that as soon as we got him out of the car outside the ground, people would descend upon him. The usual expression was, "Dick, I was there." Dick says that if everybody who says they were there at the Leeds United game, if everybody was actually there, 50,000 in Layer Road that afternoon, not 16,072. Yeah, we enjoyed a number of excellent afternoons here up at the Western Homes, probably half a dozen games. I had the enormous honour of sitting next to him through most of them, and initially I worried that perhaps his eyesight wouldn't be sufficiently good for him to make out what was going on, or he'd have other problems. But trust me, he knew, irrespective of how good his eyesight was or wasn't, he knew exactly what was going on out on the pitch. He picked up the nuances of the game, he picked up the good players, he had things sussed out within the first minutes of any games. He never lost that ability to analyse football and to understand football. Final chapter of his life, as far as I was concerned, was leading up to Christmas of last year, when, following numerous health issues, Dick slipped over at home and broke a hip, or fractured a hip. That just takes me through the chronology of my time with Dick, and the point being that, and trust me, irrespective of what I say, it won't be more on the money than his son Mark's. He talked about his integrity, his intelligence. These are the things that shone out from Dick at all times: his integrity, his intelligence, things like his consideration for other people. He was A, brilliant, and B, kind-hearted, and I can't pay him much more of a high commendation than that. During all our various discussions, he would never criticise anyone, alive or dead. He told me about events which didn't reflect well on the people concerned during his time at Colchester. In certain instances, reflected very badly on them, involving very, very important games. And over a 40-year period, Dick always kept back from the names of the people involved because he wouldn't criticise people. By inclination, he would not hurt anybody by criticising them, and that was one of his best features. I must finally say, Dick had a particular affection for Joe Dunn. Of all the managers at Colchester United that Dick encountered, I think Joe made in many ways the best impression on him. The small things Dick noticed, Joe would make a point of acknowledging him and speaking to him, and that didn't necessarily apply to all the managers who were here. And Dick, he loved Joe in his own way.
And Dick's name and legacy will never be forgotten, and I know Joe carries that through Colchester with his principle and his standards. Blue and white through was Dick.